We know of Saint Therese of Lisieux as a great saint, a 19th century French Carmelite nun who came to extraordinary holiness in just a few years. But do you know what she was like as a child? She was terrible. By her own admission, she was a horrible child. She was both strong-willed and stubborn, but also very fragile and prone to cry at the drop of a hat if she didn't get her own way. By her own admission, she rarely did her chores, but if she did, she expected full credit and would sulk if she didn't get it. If she made a mistake, she'd burst into tears and then later become worked up and cry further because she'd cried the first time. She made her family's life very difficult. She had faith and devotion to God, but her character was a long way behind. And this might be in part because her mother died when she was 4, and as the youngest of 5 children, she was coddled and everyone overcompensated for her. She knew she was sulky and temperamental, and she wanted to change, but she had no idea how. She describes, however, what she would call her Christmas miracle or her Christmas grace, which took place when she was on the eve of being 14 years old. At midnight mass, she said she felt the love of Jesus enter her, and she felt, to quote, that the tears dried up at their source. As they went home after Mass, they gathered in the lounge room for a French tradition of the youngest child, Therese, opening a special Christmas stocking. Her father, in an out-of-character show of grumpiness, explained, "This is the last time. She's too old for this." This was exactly the kind of thing which would send Therese into a downward spiral and a puddle of tears, and she darted out of the room. Her loving older sister Celine went out after her and tried to calm her down, but to both of their surprise, Therese was composed. She took a breath, went back in, and opened her stocking with gratitude and without any show of tears, and there was great joy and love amongst the family. In that moment, she later wrote, "My childhood was over, and all my childish ways. I rarely cried ever again. I was not the same Therese anymore," she wrote. Jesus had done for her in an instant what she had tried to do for years and could not do for herself. What began from that time, which she described as the loveliest time of her life as she grew in virtue and character and later joined the Carmelite convent. St. Therese's Christmas grace is just an example of the kind of healing which Jesus offers and still offers us today. We hear in today's gospel, and many times, that Jesus healed a person with leprosy. And we learn from this healing that in response to the leper's hesitant request, "If you want to, you can heal me," we get Jesus' emphatic, "I do want to heal you." Jesus wants to heal people, whatever holds them back. And what's important about this is that the things Jesus said and did on earth 2,000 years ago reveal what God is like, because Jesus came to reveal God, reveal the face of God to us, and tells us that God wants to heal us, back then and now. We don't know why everyone isn't healed all the time, and that's a question we'll look at later this year, but we know from Jesus that God's desire is to heal us and make us whole. In Jesus' time, leprosy was a social death sentence. It was so feared that you had to isolate and be without human contact for the rest of your life. And while leprosy does still exist today, it is medically treatable and doesn't have the same stigma it did then. But there is so much that needs healing today, and that God wants to heal in us. Paradoxically, the better and better our medical technology becomes, the better our physical health can potentially be, the worse our collective mental health becomes. Leprosy isn't a problem in Australia, but depression and anxiety and bipolar and schizophrenia, addictions and eating disorders are growing problems. There are physiological and medical components to all of these, and we are grateful for good medicine, but there are also emotional and spiritual components which, like St. Therese, we can be healed of. Perhaps it may happen in an instant, perhaps it may take time, but like St. Therese, we can ask Jesus to enter our soul, to use her own words, and ask for his love and power to flood the darkest and emptiest spaces of our hearts, to reorient the way we see ourselves and the world. Jesus' healing love is still at work in 1st century Israel, in 19th century France, in 21st century Australia, here and now.